points from the lesson. Live in the hills, but I still get a spread. Started with a little, but I still reinvest it. Fear how I feel, then you feel it's a blessing. I just want the lesson, I just want protection. I'm up and I'm down, but they sound like progression. Farmer never plans if he waits for perfection. Finger to the down.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I got your watch list coming in on February 22nd, 2022, and the futures are plummeting. This week is going to be insane. We had a lot of drama over the weekend. You may have had a holiday, but the futures did not. Right now, the Nasdaq futures are down about 2%, S&P about 1.5%, but this is all based off of the Russia drama, and pretty much for the rest of this week, we are going to have a lot, and chances are we will be opening up at those key support levels tomorrow. So we got a lot to talk about. I'm going to go over everything that happened. Essentially, it was back and forth drama. There was good news, believe it or not. Yesterday, the futures were actually up on reports that there was going to be a summit between Putin and a bunch of people. Then all of a sudden, they came back, and then Putin, he recognized some separatist republic. We'll talk about it a little bit. And even on top of that, another one of his ministers was saying, well, it may be too early for a summit. And then you started seeing Russia stocks, U.S. futures, European stocks, they have all gotten clapped. And really, we are looking at a very interesting scenario. And we even got some more China news. So we got a lot to talk about. I'm going to cover everything that happened. We're going to talk about what we got this week. We still got a couple of earnings. We even did make a couple of plays, and I have those for you. And then everything we're going to be watching for the rest of the week. So drop your thumbs up on that video and make sure we see you guys on stream, youtube.com/thestockmarket. But if you don't know, this is the random account generator, and we use this stream with this. What we do every Monday, you post a random option trade, strike price, expiration date, all of that. Keep it below $100, and then tomorrow morning, we are going to pick a random play. So keep it up. And chat, look at the performance. I'm pretty impressed with it. So God bless you and thank you. But right off the bat, as far as what you're going to get this week, I mean, another day, another drama. It is all going to be about Russia this week. Again, the headlines over the weekend, we are most likely going to start off tomorrow with a little bit more drama. Again, Friday was red, and we were reacting to that. And one thing we're going to talk about here is that essentially, if we see the tensions start to pick up from here, it may even put the Fed in the back seat, at least until we get the meeting. But coming into your first pretty picture above anything, I want to highlight this because now you've heard me talk about it, but a lot of the finance world, people are starting to bring this up. But essentially, after the whole little Russia back and forth, right when Vladimir Putin announced the separatist region or the separatist republic, essentially that's when a lot of volatility started coming about. And essentially, the call options on the ruble are hitting the highest since 2015. And now a lot of people are comparing what the ruble did in 2014 and 2015. So essentially, we are hitting a breaking point, and now you have the Russia currency confirming that. So chances are we're going to get a lot of volatility this week, and it is going to be all about Russia. And then on top of that, you're not going to really get any help here from China. There was a lot of rumors back and forth with Jack Ma, even another crackdown, and even China stocks, they did very, very bad. So even though we were closed everywhere across the world, they did not do good at all. China did recover a little bit as some of the rumors got cleared up a little bit, and we'll talk about it. But again, Europe was not off to a good start, and this is what we want to watch tomorrow, really. How does the rest of the world react? Because this kind of seems like everybody reacted over the weekend. So besides that, it's really going to be all about what happens with Russia. You will get some other Fed speakers this week. I believe Bostic and Mester are going to be speaking on Wednesday or Thursday, but remember, that will be key. But now if we do get more back and forth headlines here, this is what is going to dominate. So keep all that in mind. You will be getting a couple of more earnings. That's the interesting part about this week. We are wrapping up earnings, but you're still going to be hearing from HD, Baba, Palo Alto Networks, Macy's, Caesars, and HSBC. And then the PMIs and PCEs, that'll be your key data points this week. Other than that, though, it's really going to be watching Russia. I keep saying this, and it's because of the weekend that we had, but it looks like now for the next few days, we'll see where we act at with the support levels, but it does seem like the market is reacting to this. So we are going to be watching bond volatility the next few days, but just be ready now for one of those weird news days. Again, you saw it a little bit last week. Every time with the back and forth with the Russia headlines, we're either going to make a big move pre-market or the market will kind kind of be in a lull all day, and chances are you will be getting a lot of competing news back and forth. Again, we've been watching this over the last few days. News would come out. It would seem a little bit confusing. Then we find out what happened. Even over the weekend, there was a bunch of stuff. Everybody was saying peace treaty. Then they pulled that back. Then the meetings, and then even 5 soldiers, they were attacked as well. I believe there was 5 deaths as well. So again, there's just going to be a lot of stuff. How the market's going to react it, just pay attention to what the market does pre-market, as well as how do we react to news throughout the day. And then once you get a confirmation, just always be on the lookout for that. But essentially, as we get into this long weekend or this short weekend, it seems like Russia is really going to dominate, and that's what we have to be ready for this week. So coming into the company news and events, very, very straightforward here. The first thing I want to highlight, there was the Ant Group. Essentially, there were reports that Alibaba and Ant Group were in the regulatory crosshairs once again, and that regulators were asking for more info on Jack Ma and any companies that dealt with them. There was even talks about another crackdown on gaming and all of that. So even Tencent, they dropped 5% at one point over the last 24 hours. They did come back up. They said that the rumor was fake and they denied any speculation of that. But essentially, a couple hours ago into the weekend here, a lot of people are worried that we may get another round of China crackdown. So this was the China news as far as what happened with Russia. Again, it was the back and forth here, and then now the separatists, or Putin recognizing the Ukraine separatists, that was a minor escalation, or some are seeing it as a large escalation, but those were pretty much the 2 biggest things here over the weekend. Another piece of news that we got, Fed Governor Michelle Bowman, she said that a 50 basis point hike is still on the table as long as the data warrants it. So this is why it's going to be important. We should be watching the bond volatility. We'll watch the Fed futures, but I really want to see, depending on the headlines we're getting, again, oil keeps going through the roof. The futures of oil went up, even gold went up, and the fact that you just are watching Russia and European stocks get clapped, not to mention the currency, there is a high chance that we may see tensions outweigh the Fed. But watch out for any of the Fed speakers this week. Like I said earlier, they may be some of the pivot points that we will be looking for. So watch out for that. And then finally, Donald Trump and True Social, they have launched. It is actually the #1 social networking app right now on the App Store. We will see if that lasts, but there was a little bit of a rocky start. ASAP Rocky? No, a rocky start with the registration process. Some people had to be put on like a wait list, or they couldn't get it set up there, but we will see how this plays out with this stock. They kind of came out of nowhere with that. But besides anything Russia related, these were the only other pieces of news. We will see how things play out into the morning. There was a couple of deals left and right here. Again, I'm going to be watching for the morning in the news, and really just to see how we digest and where we take off from, because the futures are at the key levels from January. So we'll see what happens. But that is pretty much it. So let us get into the plays. So right off the bat, I got 4 different stacks that I'm looking at coming into tomorrow. I am going to be watching those butterflies. Again, if we get any volatility, I did go over my theory of last week. So before we get into plays, just to give you a little refresher, and that's why I think the Ukraine tensions this week will be key. Essentially, according to the futures, we probably will be opening up around here. So really what I'm looking for, maybe we test around this level and bounce up. I could be wrong, so I will make plays according to that. But again, this falls in line with the butterfly. So I'll go over the performance of a couple of them. We didn't really add anything on Friday, just riding out whatever we had. But given the news that we got this week and some of the catalysts, I will have a couple of plays. And now the first one, that is going to be BABA. And really, I think the premiums will be up tomorrow, but I think over time they will be lower. Essentially, I have a couple of old BABA plays. They're down about like 30-40%, give or take. It depends on the volatility in the morning. And these contracts are very, very weird. But essentially, I'm taking the news over the weekend as a leading indicator. I think it'll be slow to hit, but usually when you get rumors of one China crackdown, it usually happens a little bit later. So even then, it does seem like they are going after Jack Ma. I think this is bad news. If you look at BABA's stock, we brought this up the other day. It has literally just stayed here. So while a lot of the market in Nasdaq has been catching up to it, really BABA has stayed pinned here. So if this is the news, or maybe even towards the end of the week we get some of that, I think it will be key. But again, the premiums on this are absolutely wild. So watch out for that. But that is going to be the first play I'm going to be eyeing. Then the second play, this one's kind of random here, again, just because some of the continuations and earnings have been a little bit weird. But if you remember Walmart last week, they were able to do good and it acted as a defensive name. And that is one thing here, even for the rest of the week. Even if Russia goes crazy, there could be an opportunity with defensive stocks. So if you remember some of the consumer staples like last week, Altria was on there, and I'm going to be looking at plays on that one. They went up. Even Walmart did good after their earnings. ABBV, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, a couple of other ones. So essentially, not every name sold off, and that's what we want to be looking for. So I think HD kind of meets that criteria, but on top of that, they are going to be having their earnings this week, so don't forget about it. I think it could be one of those good ones if we get volatility tomorrow. It may be good to play the pre-earnings run-up plus whatever volatility the market brings, so I'm definitely going to be watching these ones tomorrow, but that is the second play, and now coming into the third play, Altria. This is all about the defensive, so really, we're going to have to watch tomorrow to see if they get a bid, and this is going to be the key. But now with Altria, they already have broken out, so we talked about this last week. They even got biggest call activity in the last few weeks here, so they're already breaking out there. Again, we have this one in the long term, but you can kind of see here, this is actually a 2-year high, so if they're able to catch that bid with a lot of volatility and kind of be that defensive target there, that one could be very good. So I'm really going to be watching those, at least maybe for some quick plays. If you remember in the beginning of the year, we were able to get a couple of those on Altria, so watch out for them. And then finally, Wells Fargo, just going to be watching a delayed reaction there with the banks. We made a call on it and we went short term last week. That one got clapped, but essentially, depending on how things play, we'll watch with the volatility, the Fed and all of that, but I will see if the banks are able to make another comeback. So those are going to be the main plays. As far as everything else, I would even be watching a couple of the oil stocks. I had XOM up here to start with. That will definitely be key. Again, you had the Iran news last week, but just looking at the futures and some of the tensions, it looks like we may get a lot of activity here with oil. So that is one thing I'm going to be looking at. As far as even the plays that I made on Friday, I cut out of those BABA weekly puts. Surprisingly, was able to get my money back. I let one expire trying to push it a little bit, but that turned out to be like a $10 gain on the trade. And then I grabbed a $19 play on Dollar Tree. I will be watching them again as the defensive moves as well, but that one kept it very, very small. I'll show you the butterflies in a little bit, but then the only other play I grabbed, I decided to grab a Roblox leap. Again, I wanted to see it between 55 and 50. It was able to go below it, so right there at close, I decided to grab a January 2024 $65 call. This is lower than when we were able to buy our shares there of Roblox, so I said, all right, that's good. It cost about $1,500, a little bit more expensive, but if you guys remember, that was cheaper than any of the other Airbnb ones, so thought it was pretty decent there. Said we'll start this with a point. I may even want to grab more shares. Again, people were asking about the long term. We still have not used that deposit at all yet, so I was waiting, thought this one would be a good one, and if it does go any lower, we may just have to very well grab it into the long term, but there was that. And then as far as the butterfly, again, I may want to look for some, but the fact is these are all up, so essentially it's telling me that it's more expensive to do the butterflies than before. But if you remember these plays, again, the idea with the butterfly, this is one of these unique option strategies. It is lower probability, but what it allows us to do is make money if this stock market goes down over time. So essentially, I think we got them around like right here. Market was doing its thing and now it's coming down, and this is the point I want you guys to see here, because over the next few days, both of the butterflies that we got, these will be able to make us money. We're up 30% on them, but like we said, if it goes down over time, that is where we make more money off of some of the time decay here. So just wanted you guys to see how these have been holding up. Essentially, it's given us put protection. If we got other puts at the same time, essentially, you would have made more than 30%. So that's the drawback. Yes, it gives you downside protection in these moments. We were able to grab it right here. Market goes down pretty big in 3 days. We still make 30%, but essentially, if you were buying puts here that were not based on this strategy, you probably would have made more money on the downside. So that's the thing to keep in mind. I will be looking at a lot of these plays coming into the rest of the week. I still have those IWM puts and that Tesla one from the week before. Remember, that gave us some downside protection. Other than that, though, going to be riding those. I took the Fords there last week as well, too. Even I have trimmed a couple of positions and then added to some calls. I will want to look for puts this week, but again, we may have to do it a little bit weird, because if we get that volatility, essentially, I am not expecting wave 3 just yet. So we will see what happens and if the volatility sets it off. But as far as everything else, going to be watching them. Where else do we got? I guess Facebook. This is another one. I closed out that other put that we had. It was like a 200% profit. Still holding even the Walmart calls from last week, and I'm going to be watching them. But Facebook, I do have one other play for like January 23 that is now came back up to around break even. But again, this is a key level depending on what source sort of Nasdaq move we get in the morning, this one could be a good one to watch. Really, I just want to see what prices the premium go to because they were jacked last week. So on the first bounce, some of those weekly puts may get cheap, and I may want to double dip throughout the rest of the week. But watch out for them. Oil, like we said, I'll even be watching CHK, Dollar Tree. I like them. Their chart's been looking good. Again, any defensive name that especially is near all-time highs or yearly highs, they could be very good, especially if they hold. And then watch Macy's. Again, chart hasn't done anything. They got earnings this week. It'll probably be wild there, so watch out for any potential plays. Disney as well, I still like it. They gave up some of that steam there. Again, we played it there around the Fed timing, so we'll see what happens with this one, but I still really like them. Again, I just really like the earnings, so we'll see what happens. Airbnb, it had its 2-day sell-off. I'm really going to watch for it to kind of base and hopefully take off again, but what we need to watch for tomorrow is how any Ukraine tensions affect travel stocks, so watch out for them. And then Ruble, we'll see if it kind of sells off, but again, I think 49 already is a pretty low level, so we'll be watching that. And then TOT and the dollar, essentially, safe haven demand is going up, and what you're watching right here, or even over the last few days, and what we'll probably get tomorrow, the divergence is closing, and you see it there on the 100-day. If we start to pull it up, it's starting to come down here, so really, this is going to be the key. I don't think TOT will hit another low this week unless the Russia tension dives down, so really, the key is kind of where do they start to meet up this week. This will tell us something, and then I'm sure you will get a lot of flattening in the curve, and then we'll be able to go from there and make some further decisions for the rest of the month and rest of the quarter. But that is your watch list, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure Hydra Healthy ready to go. Make sure post your watch list. Make sure we see you there in the morning. I need the armor on. I need the helmet shine. I need you to remember, don't underestimate the long term, baby. But Decay loves you. I love you. I will see you in the morning. Let's go.